Welcome back to A&A. Today we have a 2005 Jeep Grand Cherokee with the 3.7 V6. Um, I think we have a blown head gasket. When it warms up, white smoke, plumes come out the back, and it'll crank and run okay when it's cold for just a minute, and then that takes place. So as the engine's warming up, I believe the head gasket is blown, and when a little bit of expansion occurs, the water gets flowing. So we're going to replace the head gaskets on this engine. In doing so, since the engine's probably been overheated, if you watched the video where the trip to South Carolina on the way back, we had to use this vehicle as a rescue vehicle, and I had to replace the water pump on it because, well, the reason we hauled this vehicle back from South Carolina was because of an overheating issue and major coolant loss. So the heads will take to the machine shop. They will definitely have to be checked, resurfaced, probably just rebuilt. Definitely, at the very least, need to be cleaned and resurfaced. So we're going to start with some disassembly, and I'm not going to talk you through everything I do. I'm just going to let you watch. I've already taken the hood off because, as you've heard me say before, even if there's nothing around for me to hit my head on, I'm going to hit it on something. So, got the hood off. This is a strut bar. We're going to take it off, and we're just going to start taking stuff off that can be taken off, like this air box, air filter box, anything that can be taken off, laid to the side. Got to get it out of the way because, it's a little tight over here, not too terribly bad. Probably not quite as tight on the passenger side, but we need all the room we can to work. I don't think I'm even going to have to take, well, I may take the shroud off just for the sake it sticks up so high, but it's got electric cooling fan on it, so there's no big fan in the way right here. I may take this shroud off just to get this hump out of my way. Radiator hose come off. We'll get the battery out. So I'm just gonna put you on fast forward so you can see what I'm doing, but I'm not gonna talk you through every step. So with that said, let's get started. All right. I am gonna show you something right here though. Butterscotch milkshake. If you haven't watched the S10 video, you can go back and watch it. But I see butterscotch milkshake in part of the PCV system that gets sucked right back into the crankcase, which means we have water mixing with the oil. Pretty much confirms a blown head gasket. Start working on getting the intake out now. I just took the fuel line off, and if you've ever used those, you know, little tools for these quick connects, you have to slide the little plastic gidget up in there to hold that spring. It's never easy, man. It's always doesn't want to come off easily. So it did finally. All right, so a little tip that I didn't know about all these Jeeps your fuel injectors are held on to the fuel rail by these little, if I can get this one off, I'm going to show you. They're buggers. I was just going to pull the fuel rail off, but the injectors don't want to come out easily, so they're held on by a little metal clip, each one of them. So if your injectors are kind of stuck in there and don't want to come out, such as this one, you got to remove this one from each one of your 6 fuel injectors. Maybe that'll save you on your project from having to discover that the way that I did. And a screwdriver works much better than your fingers on trying to remove them. It's okay if you drop one, because just get your handy magnet, pick it right back up. Okay. Some injectors will, and you don't want to unplug those. Some injectors will unplug it, and so you want to unplug the harness. In. I'll show you something else about, these plastic connectors on these ejectors. Now, each one does have a red safety tab that you have to pull out first. This one's been broken off. There's a couple that was broken off. This one still has it on it. Little red safety tab, you'll pull it out this way, then you can pinch the plug. Well, this one's gone, and I can pinch the plug, but it don't release the pigtail. Once you get the fuel rail out and you leave your injector connected to the plug, you can see the tab that's holding on to it. Just, you don't want to break anything. That's the key here, is these little tabs hold the wire in place through when the engine's running and vibration and stuff. So we don't want to break these little tabs off. You can see the tab that's holding on. Just lift up on it gently with your screwdriver. Okay, it'll come out, and you didn't break the tab. Here's another tip on these plastic connectors, and they all look like they have this little red locking tab that you have to pull back first. If you mash on the tab and pull it don't come off, try pushing first, because the little plastic part that catches in there, it kind of got a hook on it. So if you can't pull it off, mash in first and then pull out, and it'll let that little tab release. want to mention something now about a little practice that's extremely good to do, and I don't do it near enough. Go to Dollar General and buy some of the cheapest Ziploc bags you can find. I use snack bags and just the little sandwich bags. When you take the bolts from something, take a magic marker, write on the bag, you know, what they're from. I've written intake. So the bolts I take out to hold the intake on, I'll put in this bag. You think, you know, well, I remember where those go. Yeah, but when you've got this many fasteners coming off of everything, you're not going to remember. Okay, it's just the truth of the matter. You're not going to remember. Some, yeah, most, no, and you'll end up like I do most every time with you know, spare fasteners and parts, which you know, most of that stuff's minor, but it's a good idea so that you don't lose bolts and have to go and purchase bolts to just label the bags, organize your bolts. You know, the funny thing about these intake bolts, I guess they've got some type of keeper on the other side, because um, even though, you know, I've loosened them, they won't actually come all the way out. So in this case, I like that. Reuse my sandwich bag. Okay, so that was not easy. And you can see where I bent this right here. I had to bend it up. That intake is, it didn't want to come out because the top of the intake I'll see how they got the thing in there. Well, it got put in with the engine. That's how it got in there. But taking the intake off by itself, you're going to hit this right here. I just stuck a big crowbar in and bent this up to where I could get that intake out. Man, it's not going to be easy going back in either. All right, so down in this valley here is a lot of garbage. I don't know if this shield comes out. What is this? Some insulation. Tell you what, let's get this out. We'll need to vacuum all that garbage out. If I don't dump it everywhere. Some foam. I guess it's insulation. Oh, it's insulating from the heat from your block or your oil gallery from heating up the air going through the intake. Let's get this out and dump it out. Not ever having set the timing on one of these engines before I start pulling off pulleys and things, I need to see if there's a particular way I've got the line up, because your harmonic balancer down here sometimes will have a mark on it, a timing mark, and we will need to line that up with something on the block sometimes. So I'm going to wait for some information on where I need to set this at before I start taking stuff loose. Yep, that's what water in the oil is like. Get you on in here so you can see what I'm seeing. Doesn't look too bad other than the butterscotch milkshake, but it's actually pretty clean in there. Just the valve cover off. Let's get this other valve cover off. I'm going to remove them 2 coolant lines down there. That'll help give me some more room, because those coolant lines go right up through there. So let's get them out of the way, get this oil fill tube out of the way, get that valve cover off. And all we really need to get off then, we're going to have to get this front timing cover piece off. That's my new water pump I put on in the other video, so that'll have to come off because some of those bolts, I think, help hold that timing cover on right there. All right, let's do a little more disassembly. Where do you guys rather sit, here or over there? You want to hang out here for a minute? All right, it's been a few weeks, couple of weeks since I was here messing with the Jeep. Um, Got to get the heads off and get them to the shop, but gonna try to get them off today. We'll see how that goes. I think where I left you off last was I was waiting on the service book before I started taking harmonic balancer and getting these timing chains off where I can get the heads off. Before I started doing any of that, I wanted to make sure the engine was in the correct position because I wasn't sure. So what the manual told me was that the uh, number one cylinder needs to be at top dead center on the exhaust stroke. Um, Usually when someone says your engine's at top dead center, that usually means cylinder number one is on the compression stroke, at the top of the compression stroke. Well, this harmonic balancer, it's got a groove cut in it somewhere, and I need to find that and paint a mark on it. And then it has a timing mark in here on this cover. This cover right here, it has a mark as well. Well, when the mark on this uh, balancer, dampener, whatever you want to call it, harmonic balancer, when those marks line up, number one is at top dead center, either on the exhaust stroke or the compression stroke. All your cylinders can be at top dead center 2 times. Once on the compression stroke, once on the exhaust stroke. Before I can start taking the harmonic balancer off, the cover off, timing chain and stuff off, my number one cylinder has to be at top dead center on the exhaust stroke. How can you tell? The easiest way to tell is your when it's going to when it's on your compression stroke, you can put your finger in the spark plug hole, and if it's on the compression stroke, you will feel air coming out past your finger. Um, that's the easiest way. If it's on the exhaust stroke, your exhaust valve is open, and you're not going to feel anything coming out. That's about the easiest way I can tell you to do it. So what I'm going to do now is I got to find the mark on my balancer, find the mark on the cover. I'm going to paint a mark here, paint a mark there. As I'm rotating the engine clockwise, I'm going to stick my finger in the spark plug hole, and I'm going to see if I can feel air rushing out. If I can, that's the compression stroke, and I need to rotate it one full revolution, line those marks up again. I'll be on the exhaust stroke of number one. Okay, so I found the groove in the balancer, and I also found the mark on the cover there. And I tried to see those letters TDC stands for top dead center. So when the groove lines up with the arrow, you're at top dead center, either the exhaust stroke or the compression stroke. So I've taken the spark plug out of the number one cylinder, which is right there. So as I'm rotating clockwise, I'm just going to try to put my finger over in there and see if I can feel air. So that is a 13/16 is the bolt on your on this crankshaft bolt right here, and we're going to rotate clockwise, and then we're going to see right here. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get my finger down in here. All right, I'm definitely feeling air. Okay, I'm feeling air right now. So that should be on the compression stroke. Yep. All right, so now we're on the exhaust stroke. So I need to line it up again. Okay, now I just need to, right there. Trying to get it on there as precise as I can. All right, she's right on the money. All right, that's a 1/2 inch on the water pump. I'm using air stuff. Disassemble. I go whatever. Most aluminum stuff, I don't just use hand tools because the aluminum, you didn't get iron out. Take it off. Take it off. Whatever you do. Aluminum. So I don't wash your stuff out because it's hard to reassemble when you're out. So I just like using hand tools. Now on stuff like this, and I don't remember if all these bolts are the same length. I am assuming they are not. I don't worry too much about getting them put in the same hole. I am going to take these and put them in a bag and label them water pump. But the reason I don't worry too much about getting them in the correct hole is when you push the thing into the hole, when it bottoms out, you got about 3/4 of an inch to thread in. That's perfect. Now, if it bottomed out and you don't have anything left to thread in, that is not the right hole. Or if you put it in, you got half the bolt sticking out. That also is not the right hole. You put it in, you got about 3/4 of an inch left. That's the right hole. So, this little tip in case you're forgotten. You got 7 bolts, 3 of them on one length. Try to pick it. I can keep it. I think 7 short ladies of those. I'll put it in here. Okay, that's not the right hole. Yep, that's right. I'll start with it. Open the top. Take it over the top. Everything we need. Sharp take glass. Sharp take glass. Let's bolts per inch. And socket. Okay. I think that's all of them. All right, before I jerk that off, I'm gonna put these bolts in a bag labeled timing cover. All right, let's just tug on it and see what happens. Nothing. Sure, we got all the bolts out. Tell you what, I think there's a couple other bolts behind this balancer here, so let's go ahead and get that off first. All right, so I got my harmonic balancer puller kit here, which has all the tidbits you should need for pulling a harmonic balancer, but that balancer doesn't have any holes in it to thread in any bolts, so I'm gonna have to use a jaw puller. Now, using the jaw puller is fine. The only thing is, so on this jaw puller, you got this, and that's going to go straight into the hole that this bolt came out of. See what I mean? And I don't want this to start boring up the threads in my crankshaft. I think I'm going to thread this bolt in there, and I'm going to push off of that right there. That way I don't get the threads boogered up. I can hear what all of you are saying right now is, this jaw puller came with something that slides on the end of it. Yeah, probably did. I don't know where it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm gonna have to turn these jaws around because I'm gonna pull on this from the inside, so my jaws got to be turned to the outside. Let's keep moving it out as that puller starts to come off. All right, that's for some reason that is not going to work. You have to hold. Yeah, sorta, and not really. Yeah, sorta, and not really. All right, let's try this. Now, talking about tools that you need in your shop, you'll need some impact stuff like impact sockets. Because a lot of times you need to do things that the regular sockets, thin wall sockets, are not going to hold up to. Your impact sockets are much stronger and much thicker. All right, so let's just see. I know that balancer is going to want to turn when it gets really tight. So this is what you struggle with when you got a whole lot of room. You get back in there. You grab hold. All right. You're not wanting to grab. Okay, now then, see if we can find a place in here. Maybe. Just maybe. Well, that's not working. All right, that puller was apparently too big for my area I got to work with here. I'm switched to my smaller puller. Let's see if possibly I can get that to bite in. I think it's on. Let's see. A little bit back in there. Let's try that right there. Okay. All I need now is this. See if it'll stay together. It is coming off. See it coming off? All right, so we're bottomed out. Okay, so we need to take this off. Doesn't like much. Need to back our bolt out some more. Give us some more to push on. Go just a little further, it should come on off. Yep, it just did it right then. You Probably saw it. Oh, I need to take this bolt back out. Your front main seal, you can see where it rides right here. So, as we're putting this back together, we'll clean this up and we'll polish that right there. Make sure it's really good and smooth. Now, how are we going to be able to position that back where it was? It's keyed. There's a keyway right here, and there was a keyway, a slot in the balancer. They line up, so it's self-positioning. Right here, right here. So be careful. Don't want to out right here. Like that. Now let's look, make sure. Let's see anything else that might hold it on. Just give it a tug. Okay, still nothing. It's all right. I can see that this bolt right here goes all the way through. Looks like. So let's get that off. 11/16 works just fine. Probably what it was holding it on, I would imagine. By the way, we are catching and recycling this antifreeze. Right. If you ever wanted to know what the back of your timing cover looked like on the Jeep, yeah, buddy. It's a tensioner right there. Guides are I don't see anything broke, but I'm seeing some. I'm seeing some rhymes and reasons. Okay, so we're on the exhaust stroke. We're at top dead center. That little mark is pointing at high noon. This one's pointed at the old 10 o'clock position. Hey, what do you know? I'm about at the 2 o'clock. All right, I'm feeling good about this. Noon, 10 and 2. We're going to take a pair of vice grips and put on the camshaft to keep it from turning. Well, if it slaps that way, at least we got something to hold it. So I think what I'll do, I'm going to go ahead and paint a mark on there before we get, too carried away. Now my wife, she bought a new bottle of liquid paper at the store the other day. She does a lot of stuff for children's time at the church, children's church we call it. She lost her bottle of liquid paper. I told her I'd try to help her find it. Go ahead and you heard that pop. That was the tensioners extending because it thinks the chain is slack. So it's trying to keep tension on it. So it's now fully extended itself, and we'll have to we'll have to fix all that. We'll have to put it back into its compressed state. Because when we put it back in, we won't be able to get it back in with its fully extended. So we'll put it back in a compressed state. So that's the guide right there. Your tensioner pushes against the back of it. So, all right, now that it's slack, camshaft isn't turning. It must have slapped that way, which is good. I don't think I'm going to be able to get a zip tie in there. So I've got some copper wire. All I need to do is just keep the chain from moving. So I'm going to run this copper wire in here. Are we going to be able to get this wire back out? I don't know. But she's not going to jump a tooth. Main goal. So this is what a tensioner looks like for your timing chain. It gets oiled. Excuse me. It gets oiled in the back there. Oil goes through these passages. It keeps it oiled, and so now it's fully extended. See that right there? We want to get that back down, but this here, we're going to have to get it down as well. The trick is there's a little keeper in here that we're going to have to maneuver to. I don't know if you press it, or I think maybe just depress it or whatever, but then this will go back down. But then you have to stick a pin in there of some kind to hold it so you can get it reinstalled. You pull the pin, and then this will come out to push tension on the timing chain. All right, so now the bottom part of that chain is slack, but the top is still pretty tight. Because I'm thinking the camshaft is wanting to turn this way, but we've got our vice grips on it. I'm gonna get a second pair of vice grips, and let's see if we can't get ourselves just a smidge of slack, because it's pretty tight right now. I don't know if we could get that back off or not. Why am I gonna put 2 pairs of vice grips on it? Well, I'm trying to create a controlled fall. Ask my wife what that is. I do those all the time. I need some slack in the top part of this chain, and feel like I can control the slap of that. Ooh, here we go. That's what I needed. Right there. All right, put that one back. Okay, that's what I needed. I just needed a little. All right, that's a 15 millimeter. Now, let's just bump it a few times. All right. So if it's not going to work, we don't tear something up. Luckily, she came right off. Now, one of my worries is that my liquid paper is going to come off. So I'm going to take a tiny piece of this wire, and I'm going to wrap it around where my paint mark is there. Yeah, you're like, what is this idiot doing? I don't know. That's why I'm doing this, because I don't know. Okay, now everything everything's falling. Now we're good because that chain is held together down there in its position. It's not going anywhere. I've got it marked here for where, now you think, okay, well, how are you going to know where to put that back? If you see, it's got a little stud right here. Goes just back just like that. Lines up with this notch in this thing, so good deal. This should just come straight on down in here. There we go. Perfect. I'm just gonna let that dude sit right where it's at. One thing I did learn since a couple of weeks ago when I had was waiting on the maintenance book to arrive was, I was having trouble getting the intake off, and it was hitting intake manifold kept hitting right here, and I had to bend this sheet metal up a little bit. I found out you have to take the get you down here where you can see. Motor mount right there to the side. See that motor mount down there? See that bolt? You have to take the two motor mount bolts out. Put a jack under the oil pan, support your engine. Take those bolts out. Let the engine drop, an inch, 2 inches, whatever. That way you can get the intake manifold off. And when I was taking the passenger side valve cover off, you might have noticed I had a little trouble getting it out. So yeah, you got to take your motor mounts loose. You got to drop your engine a couple inches. Thank you, Jeep. I appreciate that very much. So where it wants to be, I don't know. Right there. It went right there. Now, if we hadn't had the vice grips on it, it would have slapped over there. That is definitely what you want to avoid. So I had a chance to get back on the Jeep today. It's been a while, but I just took the passenger side head off, and so we have coolant there, bunch of coolant there. I was looking to see if I could find a place on the head gasket that's actually bad, but I'm not see anything in particular right now. The trouble I'm having is exhaust manifold bolts. Now, here's the head. I took it off with the exhaust manifold still mounted to it because I didn't want to get involved in trying to take these really bad rusted exhaust manifold bolts off. Matter of fact, I may just take it to the head shop just like this. That way, if they break a bolt, they're used to that. They can get that out a whole lot easier than I can. I made some progress on the Jeep. Got both heads off. We got the chains wired together so they don't slip out of place. I did break one of the chain guides, this lower chain guide on this side, so I'm going to have to purchase that. I don't know if I can just get that one or if I have to get all of them, but this is a low budget project, so I know you guys are like, get the whole set, get the whole timing set. Well, let's not. All right, so this one, driver's side, left side. No coolant. So it looks like we had a head gasket failure on the right side or passenger side.
Of course, you're not gonna just do one side at this point. So I'm gonna take the heads to the machine shop, get them started. They're a little slow, but they do really great work, so I'm okay waiting. And while they've got them, I'm gonna try to, clean these mating surfaces up, getting ready for the heads when they do come. I'm also gonna put a little oil on some rags, put down in the cylinders here that are exposed, or else they will start to get a little surface rust, and we don't want that. So, all right, we'll see y'all when we come back from the machine shop, probably in about 2 months.